Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. So in this video we do have some pretty interesting Nintendo Switch 2 news to talk about. We have something from Diddy Kong Racing, surprisingly. I never thought I'd be talking about that game. We have some news on how Pokémon Pokopia is helping the Nintendo Switch 2 sell more. We have some more information on Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. This is from people who have actually played the game, so we're going to go and take a look at what people are saying about the game right now. And another thing we're going to talk about is Nintendo fans suing Nintendo, which is pretty interesting because I think Nintendo is trying to sue the US government, I think, or something along those lines. So we're going to jump into that as well. And some more Nintendo Switch leaks, rumors, and all of that great stuff that has to do with Nintendo. If you guys do want to be kept up on all of the Nintendo Switch 2 leaks, rumors, and news, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and of course leave a like if you did enjoy the video and dislike if not. So first up, I want to talk about the sales when it comes to Pokemon Pokopia, because I feel like a lot of people kind of underestimated this game and how well it was going to sell. It's kind of Animal Crossing, which is one of those games that sold extremely well, and also Pokemon, which usually sells extremely well. So those two put together, I always thought that that was going to be something very, very big, and now we know how this affects the sales on the Nintendo Switch 2 in some way, shape, or form. So the Japan Times has this article: the Pokopia flurry helps Nintendo Switch 2 top US sales in March. Nintendo Switch 2 was the best-selling console in the US in March, riding a wave of popularity triggered by the release of a surprise hit, Pokemon Pokopia. Americans spent $500 million on gaming hardware last month, a 69% annual increase, according to the market research Circana. The Switch 2 led the way, topping hardware sales in both unit and dollar terms, and Pokopia was the primary driver. Circana's Matt Piscatella, actually I think I said that right. Since its debut in June, Nintendo's new gaming platform was traded places with Sony's group's PlayStation 5 atop US sales charts. So this really does kind of put in perspective how much people are enjoying Pokemon Pokopia, and I'd be very curious if this actually becomes a spin-off series that they will continue on in future installments. We do have some more information on how it's affected Nintendo themselves, with the Japan Times saying the game powered Nintendo shares to a 14 million rally in early March after they have taken a beating due to the concern around surging component costs. With that being said, let's move on to another very interesting topic, Diddy Kong Racing. So let me know in the comment section below if you guys do remember this game. I'm sure a lot of you guys do remember this game because a lot of people who do watch me are around my age. According to my YouTube analytics anyways, most of you guys are about 25 to 35, so I'm sure a lot of you guys, like me, did play Diddy Kong Racing on the Nintendo 64 as a kid. And apparently there was an unused character that I just never knew about at all. So this article from Nintendo Everything says Diddy Kong Racing reveals unused character Roo. Nearly 3 decades after the release of Diddy Kong Racing, a new unused character from the game has been shown, a kangaroo known as Roo. Kevin Bayless, who worked on the Nintendo 64 title as an artist, shares a look at Roo on social media. Later in development, Pipsy took her spot on the roster. And yeah, I could definitely see why they changed the character and why they chose Pipsy over this character. I think Pipsy definitely does have a better design, especially as someone who does draw a lot and does do a lot of like animation and all that. I could definitely see the appeal for this character over this character that they threw out. I do have an explanation why they just never use this character, and apparently this is what Nintendo Everything has to say on that. Bayless explained that it didn't make sense for a baby kangaroo to drive a car, fly a plane, and operate a hovercraft wearing boxing gloves. Ultimately, she was scrapped. Honestly, I hope eventually they do kind of rework the design, maybe add a couple things onto it or change it around and maybe make her another character in, I don't know, maybe a Diddy Kong Racing 2. I don't know if that would ever happen, but I would absolutely love for that to happen. So let's move on to the next topic. So this is what IGN has to say about something very interesting that fans are doing to Nintendo. Nintendo fans demand tariff refunds returned to customers. Nintendo fans have filed a class action lawsuit demanding that tariffs refund received by the company are returned to customers who have paid high prices on Switch 2 accessories and Switch 1 consoles over the course of the past year. The lawsuit, reported on today's by GameFile, essentially seeks to ensure that Nintendo does not profit from the tariff refund money, after already receiving more money from customers from goods sold at an increased price. Now, I will be the first one to admit that I'm not too knowledgeable on these type of things, but just on face value, I guess you would call it, that kind of does make sense. I mean, I don't know, maybe someone who understands these type of things more in the comment section explain it to me, because from what I can see, Nintendo would be profiting over things that are increased, and then if they want a refund, I mean, we already gave the money to Nintendo to pay for the products, so wouldn't the money rightfully come back to us instead? Again, I don't know much about this, so if someone who does know more, explain it in the comment section so I can understand. Anyways, let's continue. Nintendo recently attempted to sue the US government over its unlawful tariff demands, an attempt that was essentially put on hold while the messy situation was sorted out. Now the company, alongside many others, looks to set to benefit from a collective 160 billion tariff refund that the government has said it owed to businesses, following recent intervention by the US Supreme Court. So yeah, for people who do have a little bit more knowledge on it, what do you think about that? Would that be fair? Do you think this is just kind of nonsense, or do you think there is something to this? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you can explain it to, I guess, a 5-year-old, explain it that way. My expertise are more in line with something more creative like drawing and animation and stuff. But I am always willing to learn something new. Which, speaking of new, we do have some new things on Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, a game that I've been wondering just how good it is, and it seems we do have some information on it. So Nintendo Life has an article that says, preview, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is more than just a pretty face, and this is what they had to say about it. I thought I knew what to expect from Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, and Nintendo invited me to a recent hands-on preview ahead of the game's launch next month. I had played a good chunk of the Crafted World and Woolly World, still waiting on that Switch port Nintendo in years gone by, and the trailers for the latest adventure had clued me in on all the familiar beats. Charming but simple platforming with an adorable art style. Happily, I was wrong. That's kind of interesting because the trailer actually does put that kind of thing out there. It does look pretty simple, you know, it's not too difficult, but apparently there is something more to it. But let's keep reading. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is much of what made the series so cute and accessible in recent entries, but there's a surprising amount of depth underneath the hood. I went in expecting to fly through levels in a matter of seconds with a genuine, albeit short-lasting smile on my face. I never thought that the levels would hook me in with their secrets, then bring me back once I had discovered more about the world. After a few entries firmly at one end of the scale, it feels like Yoshi is finally hitting the sweet spot between a game aimed at both kids and longtime fans. That's kind of interesting because one of the great things about a lot of platformers, and sometimes even like games like Metroidvania type games, you know, or just exploration in general in video games, is going back and maybe unlocking something that unlocks a new area, or maybe it's something that changes the way you play the game that allows you to unlock a new area, and then you have a whole section to explore in and of itself. When games do that, I do appreciate that because it adds to the longevity of the game, and a lot of times during a second playthrough, you may find something that you didn't find on the first playthrough, so it does add to that replayability for the second playthrough at the same time. A lot of times games are only like a one playthrough type of game, and this might not be the case. Which is good because, you know, games are more expensive, so you want to get as much out of the games that you can. They do talk about what levels are and how they play out, and this is what they had to say on that. Each level thus plays out like its own mini Yoshi safari. He'll stumble across a new creature, observe it in its natural habitat, and then do everything he can to uncover all of the being's quirks. What does it taste like? What happens if you jump on it? Or on its head, I mean. Can it survive a drop from a great height? You know, all your classic at and burrow tests. So they're describing it as a part puzzle platformer, part wildlife documentary, but much like in the wild, the creatures you uncover aren't tethered to their own areas, so you can expect to see them pop up time and time again, opening new avenues to explore. I feel like this is one of those games I'm going to have to get my hands on because this is kind of not so much all over the place, but it is something that I still don't fully understand, so I'll definitely have to rent this from like Gamefly and check it out myself. Now, apparently they only played the first chapter, and that was the Wild Woods. They say, I uncovered a few different species while getting used to the gameplay, but I noticed the pages of the books had started to change. A flying bee-like creature that I discovered midway through had migrated back over to the flower I found in the beginning. So from my understanding, the more you play this game and the further you kind of get into the chapters, things change, and when you flip back to like other levels, they'll actually change as you progress further into the story, meaning that you can replay through them and access like new areas and new challenges, maybe new puzzles. That's actually pretty interesting. Yeah, they even say I headed back into the level and was faced with a batch of new discoveries as the two species interacted. So yeah, by the sounds of it, it kind of just seems like a cozy, platformer that has puzzles and replayability, which is pretty good. It does sound like on the smaller side. I don't think this is gonna, be overly amazing. I don't think it's gonna, sell Nintendo Switches. I don't think it's gonna move units, but it's another game that seems like it's a good game, and I think that's the most important part, obviously. But yeah, sounds pretty fantastic if you ask me. I'm gonna definitely try it out. But that being said, guys, that is all the topics today. Let me know what you guys think about today's topics down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.